Let's return to our top story, and a ceasefire deal has been reached between Israel and Hamas. We can now speak to Professor Kamel Hawwash, a Palestinian academic and an analyst. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. I really appreciate it. An official announcement could be made imminently from the Qatari Prime Minister. When are we expecting him to speak?
Well, we are told it's only a matter of hours before that happens. Clearly, even though we are told that a deal is reached, until somebody comes out and announces that it's been reached, we still await confirmation. So I think certainly Palestinians are looking forward to hearing that a deal has been reached, because their suffering has been indescribable, and we want to see the end of the daily killings by Israel.
Professor, you mentioned a deal there. As you said, no official announcement yet. It's what we're waiting for. But what is possibly in this deal?
Well, it will be that the Israeli troops begin to withdraw from the main population areas towards the east. They would leave the Netzarim corridor, which divides the north and south. We're not clear yet whether they would leave what's called the Philadelphia corridor completely, but all the indications are that that's going to happen. But that on the first day of this deal, that three Israeli hostages will be released, followed by another 4 at the end of the first week. And at the same time, you begin to see Palestinian prisoners released by Israel. And then things should continue beyond that there would be no further attacks by either side, if you like. And then they begin to move towards a second stage, where they begin to get much further in the release of most of the hostages, if not all of them, and that Israel would leave the Gaza Strip, then leading to a stage where the question of rebuilding for those particularly who will be moving back north to their, it's difficult to say to their homes, because Israel has destroyed most of them, but to the areas where they used to live, so that they can begin to rebuild their lives. And also from the first day, it is suggested that there would be 600 or so trucks a day going in with aid to help the Palestinians who have suffered terribly at the hands of Israel, who has tried to starve them to death.
That's what I wanted to ask you about, rebuilding. What does the future look like now, after you said things have been extremely difficult, aid's been difficult to get in, people are starving to death? What's going to happen?
Well, if things go according to plan, then the Rafah crossing would be open. In the first phases, temporary homes, accommodation, and more tents would be sent in, together with relief, both medical relief and in terms of food and other needs. And during that period, and that is something we also need to consider, there would be a question of who rules Gaza after the guns have stopped. And that isn't clear as yet. But that is important before the question of rebuilding starts. But when you consider that tens of thousands of homes have been destroyed, most of the medical facilities, almost all the universities, many of the schools, it's a huge task that's going to cost billions, but it is badly needed if we can get to a semblance of normality for these people, and for them to focus on the positive things of going back to some normal life, while the undoubted hatred that they've developed towards their oppressor will take even longer to curtail, because those who, when you consider that over 20,000 children have been killed, that there are many, many orphans. These are not, those who remain will not quickly forget what's happened. So yes, it's important to have rebuilding, electricity supplies, water, and so on, and also the ability to move in and out of Gaza would be something that they would very much be looking forward to after they displayed unbelievable resilience in remaining on the land. And even though Israel has moved them from north to south to east to west at its will, which is something that they're not going to forget in a hurry.
Professor, Netanyahu hasn't ruled out continued fighting after this first phase. What do you make of this? Is the ceasefire deal or the deal we could reach possibly fragile? How do we know that it's going to be stuck to and things are going to work in accordance?
Yeah, first of all, let's get to the deal. Let's get to a real ceasefire so people can have some relief. And then I think the various parties that have worked so hard, like Qatar and Egypt, and indeed the Americans, with a new administration coming in, Trump wants quiet. He wants an end to this. And I suggest that part of the reason why Israel eventually moved to get to this deal was the prospect of Trump coming in, and he promised, there'd be hellfire if the deal wasn't reached, and this means that both the Palestinian side and the Israeli side have got to move in a way that takes this out of the list of priorities that Trump has, because he has many. But any ceasefire is fragile. We've seen what happened in Lebanon, particularly in terms of Israel showing complete disregard for any agreements on the pretense that it's all to do with its security. But what we look forward to is an end to this, the rebuilding, but then we need to move to a real effort to bring an end to this conflict that meets the rights of the Palestinian people. Because unless that happens, no amount of normalization, no amount of aggression by Israel against the Palestinians is going to bring peace to Israelis after 76, 77 years of the creation of their state. That's something they should think about. What is it that will bring them peace? And it's only when the Palestinian people attain their rights.
Professor, I wanted to talk to you about Donald Trump. You mentioned him there, and he's obviously incoming soon, and his special envoy to the Middle East has played a role in brokering this very deal that we're talking about. Do you think that Trump is responsible for this ceasefire coming over the line, if it does, possibly?
Well, I think the Americans, as I say, the Qataris, the Egyptians have been working really hard for months to try and bring this deal together. And indeed, President Biden, who outlined this, or he presented this as a deal back in May. So it's not just Trump, but I think the prospect of him coming, and that single phrase where he said, unless the hostages are released, there will be, all hell to pay, if you like, made focus people's minds. And it's always been the case that Israel had run out of targets, to be quite honest. So why continue killing and destroying? Even just before I came to talk to you, a Palestinian journalist has been killed within minutes of a ceasefire being announced. So I think that Trump's stature will have played a role. He sent his envoy to Israel and indeed to Qatar and so on, and he's insisting that this is taken off his desk as an issue that he has to deal with, when he's got many other issues, including Russia and Ukraine, what's happened in Los Angeles, as well as other areas, the cost of living in the United States. He thinks about tariffs. He's got many issues that he wants to bring in very soon after his inauguration. So this will help make sure that this is taken off his desk. But at the same time, and this is really what I'm interested in, is it will bring relief to the Palestinian people in Gaza. But in addition to that, I still hope that the International Criminal Court will be bringing Netanyahu and other Israeli leaders in terms of the various, the warrants that have been issued, because there has to be accountability. It isn't just about ending this. And quite honestly, why isn't Israel paying back preparations for the destruction of Gaza as well. That is something that the world should not forget. It was Israel that destroyed Gaza, not the Palestinian people.
Trump has been on Truth Social. He said, with this deal in place, my national security team, through the efforts of Special Envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, will continue to work closely with Israel and our allies to make sure Gaza never again becomes a terrorist haven. We will continue promoting peace through strength throughout the region as we build upon the momentum of this ceasefire to further expand the historic Abraham Accords. What is your thoughts on what we just heard from Donald Trump there?
Yes. I mean, notice that he didn't mention Israel's occupation of Palestine, which is the main cause of the continuing conflict. He's focused on the Abraham Accords. They want to bring Saudi Arabia into these. Saudi Arabia has insisted there must be a Palestinian state before it normalizes relations with Israel. So his focus should be on how to end the occupation, how to dismantle the illegal settlements, because they're the biggest impediment to peace, and that the Palestinians just need to get basic rights that every one of us wants to enjoy, of freedom, of justice, and of equality. Now, if his focus extends beyond supporting Israel in what it's trying to do now, which is to increase its presence in the West Bank, and to say to people like Smotrich, don't think about a greater Israel. Israel is basically historic Palestine, less the area that will be there for the Palestinian state to be created. And if the Israelis don't think that's enough, then they cannot look forward to a peaceful future while they occupy another people's lands in accordance with international law.
Professor Kamel Hawwash, Palestinian academic, thank you so much for joining me this evening to speak to us about that breaking news.
Thank you.